All right, it is starting time on my watch, and I don't have a lot of time after this, so we're going to get rolling. Before we get starting, first off, thank you for joining. I'm going to ask you to excuse any background noise you may hear. Actually, in our office here, we're in the middle of a building project, so you may hear noise coming from lower level, which is our direct mail production facility. So if you hear things that sound like hammers and whatnot, it's actually mailing equipment, but hopefully it won't be too distracting. I'll go ahead and I'm going to stop my video during this so you can see the slides easily. Looks like we have a handful of people, so by all means, feel free to chat in any questions. I'll adapt to what you want to hear. Also, if you want to right now, find your way over to chat and chat in what type of business you have. That will help me because I can tweak the content more specific to you. But let me go ahead and kill out my camera and we'll get rolling here. Okay, so this is all about 7 ways to implement 7 times faster. So things I'm going to be sharing today with you are how to get more clients or patients in your business, how to implement marketing faster. So you've gone through the boot camp. I believe everyone on here is a magnetic marketing boot camp alumni. So throughout that day and a half, there's been a lot of tasks given to you to implement. So we're going to talk about the quickest way to get that done. Ultimately, help you save time and reduce missed opportunities. All right, Rob, I see you're in business development. Awesome. Anyone else, if you want to chat in what type of business, again, I'll tweak the content as we move along here. If PowerPoint cooperates. Okay, a few things about me. Looks like all new names here, so none of you are familiar with me. My name is Justin Miller. I own a company called Profit 911 Consulting. We're a online and offline marketing agency, and we work with a lot of magnetic marketing, Dan Kennedy disciples, if you will. I myself am one of them. I've been self-employed forever, written several books, as you likely have been taught to do. Play mainly in the digital marketing, marketing automation, and follow-up system space. And I speak at a lot of conferences, or used to, I should say, until this year. Kind of threw a wrench in the works for everything. Play around with Keep and Infusionsoft, and you'll see my family there with 3 kids. It's a good thing we took that picture before the remote learning we have here in Illinois, because I don't think the smiles would be anywhere near as big now as we struggle through with remote learning. But ultimately, I'm here to help you guys today. I'm going to share things that we do in my agency to help people that you can implement in your own businesses. And it's all about getting stuff done. So I'll share a little story, some of my business background. So my very first company I was actually a mobile disc jockey. And we had a wedding business, but before that we launched an event called the Element Mobile Nightclub, and you'll see Ticketmaster tickets on the screen for this. This was really a turning point, and what led me down the marketing path, owning a marketing agency. It was 18 years ago now, which, when I look at this ticket, seems like forever ago, but I can remember it vividly because this was an event where basically we rented out a banquet hall that 1,100 kids could cram into, and set up a massive sound and light and laser show, fog and glow sticks and t-shirts and radio DJs and the whole 9 yards. And we did what I thought was a lot of promoting for it. This was at a point in time where, if you remember, in 2002, people were still listening to the radio. All the streaming stuff hadn't taken off quite yet. And we owned the airwaves on kind of the top 40 station for 3 weeks leading up to this event. Like every station break between the hours of 3 p.m., 11 p.m., our ad was on there, or the DJ was talking about it, or giving away tickets, or I was live on air with them. And we really pumped this thing up. I invested, I think, maybe about $10,000 in this thing between credit card debt and help from my parents, honestly, at that point, in addition to that. And we were ready to rock and roll. We had metal detectors sitting out for getting the kids in, trying to keep it a safe, clean environment. And I remember this thing was scheduled to start at 7:30. And then people started to show up, and we opened the doors slightly after 7:30 to this giant, massive room. And ultimately 75 kids showed up. I lost more money than I've ever seen in my life. I'm like to think I'm still pretty young. I was much younger then. And this was a what the heck just happened moment for me. And it revolved around marketing. And And knowing the things I know now, that would have never happened. But it's easy to make. Now, there is one group that I did really good promoting to and did show up, and that was the press. I couldn't find the clipping for this presentation, but the headline article in the newspaper was "Plenty of room on the dance floor." So we'll never forget that. They had to get that little burn in there too. But today we won't be talking about that company I had. I'm just going to give you some shortcuts, some things I've learned over the years, and specifically how it relates to magnetic marketing and what you've learned. And ultimately, it all boils down to this, sitting around your company, what if we don't change at all and something magical just happens? I truly think this is a lot of people's plan. Um, the next step up is you kind of learn what you need to do and still can't get it implemented, and you're still waiting for something to save you, or trying to learn the next thing that you don't know, or the next unlock the next secret. And frankly, there's not a lot of secrets in this. Dan would be the first person to share that with you. A lot of it looks and sounds like work, and one of the major differences between the winners and losers is speed of implementation. So we have this graphic. This is a poster we actually have here hanging up really big on the wall. That's money loves speed. So our goal here is to implement as much as we can as quickly as possible, see what works, iterate on it, and move on to the next thing. So it's all about speed. I'm going to teach you 7 ways. Um, Marcus Lemonis says business is all about 3 Ps: people, process, product. We're going to focus on 2 of those today. So we're going to focus on people and process. I assume that the service or product you guys provide is awesome. If it's not, go work on that first, because marketing is just going to serve as an accelerator for wherever the rest of the business is to start with. So we'll focus on people and process. I've got everything kind of broken down into which portion that is. We're going to go probably 45, 50 minutes today. If there's questions, we'll hang out or go a little bit longer. So again, feel free to use the chat, chat in any questions you may have. Otherwise, I'll get you the content and you will have it, and it'll be up to you to use it. So first category is methods for faster implementation via people. I'll be honest, I'm a systems guy. I like systems better, but we can't get it done without people. I really wish I could sit at a computer and click a button and things would magically happen, and it just doesn't work that way. I've tried. There's dreams of these online funnels, and we're a digital marketing agency, but at the end of the day, people are involved. So those of you that can get to chat, can you chat in and let me know just how many employees or internal people work in your companies, so I have an idea who I'm talking to here? And if you can't find chat, it should be a Zoom toolbar hanging out somewhere, and you should be able to get to the chat. So Rob, I know you found your way there. Or I can even give you permission to unmute yourselves. All right, Rob, solopreneur. Lexi, Daryl, Paul, Ravi Prakash. I probably messed up your name severely. Solopreneur as well. Daryl, if you can chat in, how many staffs? I'm sure it wasn't that great, but I'll take it. All right, Alexi's team has 3. Okay. So needless to say, we're not dealing with organizations of 20 employees here. So that greatly helps me, because our client load varies greatly. We have everything from solopreneur to, I think the largest ones are about 30, 35 employees. So this one will be a little interesting to you then. So accelerator number 1, and some of these are going to seem obvious. If it seems obvious to you or it doesn't seem like it applies to you, try and find the way that it can apply to your business. So accelerator number 1 is hire an intern. So very quickly, as you begin to learn more and more of magnetic marketing, pull marketing, multi-step marketing, it becomes a challenge to get it all done. One of the cheapest ways people turn to getting it done is to pawn it all off on an intern. Maybe the intern's really part-time labor. Maybe it's a true internship with a college or university. But either way, at some point in time, the thought will cross the entrepreneur's head to hire an intern and get them to do it. So a lot of these bullets I have in accelerators for you, I'm going to just break down to pros and cons for you. And again, don't bother taking excessive notes. I'll email this out to all the registered email addresses afterwards. And ignore the fact I don't have fancy PowerPoint transitions for today. This one's all about the content. It was built just for you guys. It's not being shown to 1,000 people on stage like some of the other ones I have. So here's the good things about hiring an intern and why it's sometimes a good idea. Number one, you get constant access to them. So this is one of the rare situations where you can go directly to someone, you know when they're going to be there, you know when you can count on them, and you can get an answer when you need it. You can change course. The intern is moldable. You can shape them to what you want them to do. And bottom line, usually they work cheap. Often hourly pay. If it's a true internship, sometimes it's unpaid, although that's pretty hard to set up these days. Typically worth paying. And then again, it can be part-time, full-time, but essentially, no offense to anyone, the intern, you're looking for something you can dress up and you can get some work out of and see how it goes, right? So I don't have, I think, any presentations where there's not a picture of some sort of monkey or ape. So there's my obligatory one for this one. The bad of hiring interns, here, the biggest one's the first one. They need constant guidance. Okay, they don't come to you with skill sets ready to go. Even if you pay to send them through the magnetic marketing boot camp that you went through, they're still going to need guidance, and they're going to have questions, and they're going to need help in your personal time. So you need to know that going in. Second thing is, a lot of times they just do as they're told. So what I mean by that is they're not going to present unique solutions to you. So if you go to university and hire yourself a marketing intern, chances are 100% you know more about marketing than they do, even if they're a senior in college. So they're going to be looking to you for guidance. And if you think you can bring them in and say, hey, here's what I want to achieve, have at it, here's some resources, you're in for disaster. Despite the fact they work cheap on an hour-to-hour basis, the output they actually produce can be quite expensive, just because the amount of what gets done versus hours, again, for a rookie, tends to be fairly weak. So oftentimes you end up with this, of course, an exaggeration, but someone sitting around waiting for direction from you, and you get irritated, and it's not good for anyone. They're not learning what they're supposed to be learning. You're not getting the output you want to be getting. So make sure if you go down the hire an intern route, you have time to dedicate towards training them. You have patience. You're willing to coddle and train them and mold them into what you want. And you may actually produce yourself a revenue producing asset. Out of curiosity, has anyone hired an actual intern before, college student intern? If so, chat it in. All right, intern. Accelerator number 2, hire gig-based workers. So, all right, so one hired their niece. Oh yeah, you got another entire level of challenge if it's someone that's related to you. If it doesn't work well, if it works well, that's actually great. Accelerator number 2 is to hire gig-based workers. So gig-based workers, what I mean is you have a specific task you want done and you outsource it to them. So 2 of the platforms that are most common for this, and we use ourselves, are Upwork and Fiverr. And I can kind of tell you my preference for each if you haven't used these sites. Fiverr.com, I like for very quick one-off tasks, low talent level, cheap is the name of the game, quick turnaround. That's what I would go to Fiverr for typically. Upwork, I would go to for a little more in-depth type of work, maybe project-based, maybe it has a little complexity to it. But these are just 2 of many platforms where you can go online, you can hire someone to perform a specific task at a set rate or set hourly rate and get it done. So I'll give you an example. Recently we had a 30-second commercial we had to produce for something, and we don't have video editing in-house, and my normal guy couldn't turn it around fast enough. So I went to Fiverr, found someone that had a great feedback portfolio, and gave them more money than the project was probably worth, but got it done in my timeline. So pros and cons with hiring gig-based workers. First off, the good side, they are very skilled in their area of expertise. So No one puts themselves out there on Fiverr as a jack of all trades. If you want video editing, you can get video editing. If you want graphic design, you can get graphic design. If you want graphic design of a brochure for a certain industry you work in, you can find that. So you want to be specific in what you're looking for, and you can likely find someone that fits that profile. And then you heard me mention feedback profile. This platform allows you to see feedback based on previous tasks. It allows you to see previous delivered work. It's kind of a portfolio, and very quickly you can sum up who's good, who's not. I rarely gamble on people without amazing feedback. I'm willing to pay more for people that I know are going to get the job done, get a job done the first time. I will say if I'm on a tight deadline, I will often hire 2 people, give them the exact same instructions, and hope that one nails it. So that's sometimes how I deal with Fiverr or Upwork or the gig-based stuff. But again, that doubles the cost, obviously. Most important thing here, though, is it's worldwide talent pool. So they are from all over. So there are people in the US and Canada on there, but they're competing against every other nation as well. So depending on the task, over the years, we've hired people from India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, I believe even an Aussie and Australian on there, but pretty much everywhere. So you're not limited at all. The bad, the person that you're going to hire to do a task here is not going to understand how their task fits into the bigger picture of what you're trying to accomplish. So you have to be very specific, very literal in what you want. Again, English may not be their native language, so you need to you have to figure out real quick how to speak in basic level English, which we do when we have to work with them. Also, some people have figured out how to game the system. So even though they have feedback profiles, a lot of contractors on there have figured out how to skirt deadlines and pretend to turn in work on time and play all kinds of games. This isn't exclusive to any one platform. It happens all the time. So even if you do all your research, you still get burned every once in a while. Over time, you really just have to find vetted people, and you have to put yourself out there and test and try, and oftentimes kiss a lot of frogs to find a good one. Again, they do exactly what you ask for the most part. I wouldn't go there for an overly creative task, something that's going to require unique input and insight. It exists, but that's not probably where I would go. And when you're hiring gig-based workers, their skill set is so specific that you have to hire several of them. So again, we run a marketing agency here. So if I were to go and hire all the skills out on Fiverr, I would have to hire multiple graphic designers, one that's good with digital, one that's good with print. I'd have to hire a web designer. I'd have to hire a web developer to actually program that out. Possibly a web integration person. Have to hire a copywriter to do the writing, someone that knows how to set up whatever CRM system I'm on, someone who knows how to set up follow-up and marketing automation, someone who knows how to run ads on Facebook or Google or YouTube, wherever we're at, someone to create video ads, someone to do data entry. It goes on and on and on. There's lots of things that you can outsource. But at the same time, you have to manage all those, and you're going to have to find good people in each area. So that's gig-based workers. Now, I want to make sure I make a differentiation between these two, because Accelerator number 2 and 3 are all about outsourcing. So Accelerator number 2 is gig-based workers. It's one-time tasks. It's very finite. This is either done or it's not. Accelerator number 3 is hiring time-based contractors. So this is when you hire someone that is remote, but essentially part of your team, like a true VA of sorts, depending upon what they're doing. 2 of the websites that we would use for this, one's called onlinejobs.ph. If you've never heard of that one, that is, I believe it's the largest Filipino job listing site on the internet. And there's thousands of people posting jobs and looking for jobs up there. You can search by skill set. You can search by pay range. I will tell you their posted pay range is usually higher than what it should be. But cheap labor for part-time or full-time outsourced position. Hire My Mom is a similar one, but it's not necessarily international. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's stay-at-home moms looking to do a little extra work and contribute and make some money. It's going to be more expensive. but a different experience for you. So when you go down the route of hiring time-based contractors, which we have over the years as well, the good parts, they become part of your team. You can give them feedback. They know what else is going on in the company if you let them know. They're skilled in an area of expertise. So someone might put themselves out as a social media manager, and those are the basic skills they have, but they need trained. Okay, this is not typically expert level focused skill set. This is typically exposure to mid-level, but you're going to have to actually tell them what to do. You have to treat them as you would an employee that you hired in-house. Okay. And if you come in thinking it's something different than that, you're kind of setting yourself and the contractor up for failure. They do have feedback profiles, so you can see what previous employers had to say. But it's not, kind of the anonymized feedback that the gig-based sites have. So you're not going to find someone on online jobs that has 300 5-star reviews. It's not going to happen because these are meant to be long-term position hires. So working full-time, if you look at your own career history, if you were not self-employed the whole time, how many different employers did you have? And if they all came from the same place, that would be the feedback profile. So we have a couple floating around out there that we used to use that, were listed on their feedback profile, but you're not going to have a lot of input and a lot of proof. You're going to have to do interviews. You're going to have to do the recruiting and training and process just as you would anyone internally, if not more so because they're remote. Again, this is worldwide talent again, so we're not limited geographically, which is great. What I use time-based contractors for is ongoing, repetitive, low-skill tasks. So that could be data entry task that's going on forever. It could be outbound calls. Some of these are good at calling. We had a web developer for a while that we used that was outsourced through one of these sites. No longer, but that worked okay. So ongoing, repetitive, and not going to take a ton of time to explain to them the job task and how you want them to work. The bad on this one, they often fail to see the bigger picture again. I would encourage you to treat time-based contractors as part of your team, invite them to staff meetings, communicate what's going on. But if we have international, again, we usually have a little language barrier on top of everything else. And managing remote hire, it's changed a little bit this year. People are more used to it, or at least you understand the challenges with it you might not have before. But you have to figure out how to create that loyalty and that sense of team from a remote standpoint. And it's challenging. Even if you know what you're doing, it's very challenging. Again, they can fall into the trap of doing exactly what you ask them to do and being very literal, especially if they have basic level English and that's how you're communicating. They will be very literal. And the biggest challenge here is cultural barriers and considerations. So, for instance, if you go to onlinejobs.ph and you hire someone on and they are doing fine, and all of a sudden they just disappear one day, it's not unheard of. And there are many traps you may have fallen into. Maybe you ask them to do something that they didn't know how to do and they got embarrassed and left. That would be fairly common in that culture. It's a very respect-driven culture, and if you change the rules and scare them, they just ghost on you. There's holidays there to consider. There are different pay things. In the Philippines, they have what's called 13th month, which is an end-of-year bonus, basically, but not really a bonus. You better pay it, or you're not doing the right thing. All that kind of stuff going on as well. And if you're going to use time-based contractors, you owe it to them to dig into that before you hire. So that you understand how that type of relationship functions and that it's not strictly and straight transactional. Yep. If you have any questions about those, type them in, but that's probably a good synopsis of time-based contractors. And I'm not trying to sway you towards or away from any of these. I just want to lay out, the options that are in the remote workplace we have right now and what we found to be experience in all of them, because we've hired from all these sites on a variety of skill sets. I've always, even in my previous company, been big into outsource and automate. So we've probably made just about every mistake you could make and learned a lot of them the hard way. Accelerator number 4. So if you do any combination of 1, 2, 3 successfully, very quickly what you end up with is a bunch of people coming to you for input on what to do next and questions about their job. It's the same, in a lot of employment situations in very small companies as well. Everyone reports directly to the boss. This becomes a problem if your job as the boss is to do something else, or if it's professional service provider like we work with, your job's to deliver the service. We work with a lot of attorneys, doctors, physical therapists. They ultimately have to be clocking, patient and client time, or the business ceases to exist. So hiring a marketing manager at some point becomes necessary if you go the contractor route. The good is they can manage a lot of people. They can manage multiple projects. So again, we're a marketing agency, but our current project manager, Al, he can juggle up to a dozen clients at any given time. So they're not just stuck on one thing here. He could be doing multiple ways. Yes, it's stressful, but it can be done if that's the core scope of the job. Can isolate the owner from getting lost in the weeds. So this is probably the biggest single value, is keeping you as the owner, the entrepreneur, the practice owner away from the minutia of the implementation. So you can stay high level, see what's going on, make sure it's getting on, and the team can worry about everything else. Also with the marketing manager, you start to get thought level solutions. And what I mean by that is everything else we discussed up to this point, you are dictating what they do. When we get to marketing manager, they're kind of a liaison between you and the team. As such, they kind of know what you're looking for, and they're translating that into the detail level, and they're able to provide you some good feedback and ideas on things to do differently based on what they're seeing across all the contractors, across the disciplines, or across the employees. And the marketing department then starts to get a life of its own, away from you, and you don't have to be the sole everything as far as it goes. Now, like everything, there's some bad. And the biggest one is a marketing manager is completely non-revenue producing. This is really a management position. They are not going to design your marketing piece. They're not going to write it. They're not going to build the website. They're going to manage the people that do that and manage the communication, so you don't have to. But as such, you're paying them whatever their wage is or salary. And that's not directly attributed to revenue. They need support below them and above them. So a marketing manager without the right team is useless. Also, a marketing manager without the right input from you above them is also useless and just kind of throwing darts at a board. So you need to be out there, learning the techniques, learning from magnetic marketing and wherever else you're plugged in your industries, and bring that back to the manager. The manager figures out how to actually get it done. Also, this position is a higher skilled level. Different skill set. It's going to be more expensive relative to the other hires. Probably not as expensive as the super skilled labor in a specific area. But overall, for a direct staff member that's non-revenue producing, they'll be relatively expensive. Before I move on, do we have any questions about the people side? Because the rest of the accelerators I'm giving you are all process, which is where I like to live and play more so than people, actually. So I'll share everything I have. But any questions, feel free to jump in. I'm going to change the security setting as well so that you're able to unmute if you really want to. Figure out how to do that. There we go. Otherwise, I will keep talking to myself, which is definitely not my favorite thing to do, but happy as long as you guys are getting value. So if you give me some sort of feedback that you are still alive on the other end, whether it's a thumbs up or a chat in, it will be much appreciated. All right, Rob's with me still. Thanks, Rob. All right, so we're going to move over to the process side of things as opposed to people. And accelerator number 5 is my personal favorite, but can't exist without all the other ones, which is automate where possible. So I'm a systems, I'm a follow-up guy, I'm a see what computers can do where people aren't needed type of person. So this is where my brain lives a lot of the time. Thankfully, I'm supported by team members that know the rest. Um, the important thing, though, is a lot of people fall in love with the concept of automation, but the overall concept is to only use people where they provide unique value. So if a computer can do the task, it should do the task, is the basic feeling. Um, so if a computer can remember to email someone 2 days after they forgot to do what you told them to, 5 days, 7 days, tell someone to call, the computer should. Now, there are instances, though, where automation for automation's sake occurs. Um, and we have to catch our clients a lot of time where we're trying to over automate something that's not really going to save a lot of time or is not going to produce the result they're looking for. And this is where my friend and fellow magnetic marketing follower Brian Durkin has the term artificial intelligence. So even when we're looking at what can we automate, sometimes the automation is actually outsourcing to someone else. So maybe it's a simple task, but really the best way is to manually do it. Okay, well, can we have a system ping someone over in the Philippines to do that task when it's time? So that's what we mean by artificial intelligence. It's really a human being, but it's being triggered and managed by automation. Um, Anything that's consistent, predictable, process oriented can and should be automated or outsourced. So the best way to start doing this in your company is to come up with the mindset that you're going to start outsourcing automating and just catch yourself doing things over and over. So as you start sending an email that you know you've typed something similar to 5 or 10 times, make the template. Um, if you're mailing something on a schedule and it feels like you're reinventing and you're managing that manually, get it down in writing, pawn it off onto someone else's desk to make sure it happens. So it's really about taking what you're already doing, getting it off your desk so you're freed up for your most valuable activity. Um, so the automation feeds people and manages the flow. And also the almost just as big deal is that it tracks it all for you and creates a history. So I mean, tools I'm talking about are CRM systems to, of course, have the brain and manage all this. But things that can be automated, obviously you can automate email, you can automate text messages, you can automate outbound voicemails, you can automate direct mail. So I told you below me, we have a mail production facility that does just that. You can send brownies, greeting cards, gift cards, uh, all kinds of stuff without ever even touching it, all from a software system. So I don't want to wreck the surprise necessarily, but it is what it is. So when new clients come on board with us, within a week of signing up, they're going to get a thank you gift that includes some goodies and a thank you card. And it's all automated. We don't touch it. Um, so that's very cool. So what can be automated? All kinds of stuff. You just got to be careful to not go down the path of what can I automate. You really want to look at the problem you're trying to solve and solve for that. Because when we get clients or prospects that see a quick victory in automating something, next thing they want to do naturally is automate everything. You have to find that fine line. Accelerator number 6, accountability meetings. Not my favorite accelerator, but it's so important. So found another comic for y'all. So what if, and I know this sounds kooky, we communicated with the employees. All right, so accountability meetings and what I mean by it. So these are actually kind of progress and planning meetings. I actually hate the term accountability meeting. In fact, if it ends up on my calendar, it's a pretty good way for me to click no, I'm not attending on it. And if you don't like meetings, I'm right there with you. Nobody likes pointless meetings. It's a waste of time, money, and resources. And especially if they're remote meetings in Zoom, I don't want to spend more time on Zoom right now. I live in Zoom. I thank you all for being on here, and I'm happy to be on here with you. But I don't want to spend more time on Zoom than I have to. So nobody likes meetings. But the bottom line is, and I'm sure you've heard this before, you have to inspect what you expect. And even if you know it, chances are there's areas you're not doing it in. Marketing is not one of the areas you want it to happen. So even in my company right here, we have a front office hire that one of the job functions is kind of cleaning up the office. Okay. And there's a giant checklist on what to do and when to do it. And that was turned over to that position about a year ago. And about a month ago, I started thinking, you know what? There's no way that list is being used because this isn't being done. Well, shame on me. I wasn't inspecting it. I wasn't forcing the check off on the list. Um, was it killing things around here? No, but little things like that add up. And if it's on the marketing side, it can absolutely take you from success and profitability on the marketing to, in the red really fast. Marketing's kind of touchy. We're not usually playing with massive margins on it. So these meetings are important so you know what's going on. The other thing is, and you probably heard this as well, is work expands to fit time allotted. One of my favorite subjects. If someone knows they have more time to do something, that's how long it takes. Everyone's guilty of it to an extent. Sometimes it's procrastination, sometimes it's other priorities, sometimes it's laziness. But if there's a deadline coming up for something Thursday afternoon, it will take till Thursday afternoon to get done. Very, very rarely does someone beat the deadline. This stops a lot of that. It forces the deadline, uh, and the meetings should be at least weekly. If it's an outsourced team, I like weekly. And there's a couple reasons for that. One of is shifting targets. So as entrepreneurs, we're always changing things. I'm guilty of it myself. We make sure we interview and find candidates that can deal with the change because what is one thing is completely changed to the next, and that was pre 2020 where everything has changed again. So there's always shifting targets. There's two reasons: either the owner's whim, or a new shiny object was found, or there's data to support a change. And the quicker you can iterate, get that out there, discuss everyone, and find a course of action, the better. So I recommend with the marketing team to meet weekly. Any less than that, and things are just happening way too slow. Any more than that, and you're having meetings about what you should do rather than what got done and what you should do, because there's no time to actually do anything. Of course, you're providing input in the interim as necessary, but overall, for a progress planning meeting every week, should start with what occurred, what are the new ideas, and assign the next action items. So this is a meeting that typically your marketing manager would run. If you don't have a marketing manager, then this falls on you to run that. Oh, we're at Accelerator number 7 already. You guys are so quiet that we're just flying through it. So that's fine, because I will take as long as we need to take, which in this case may be a little short. So Accelerator number 7 is use proven materials and shortcuts. If you've been around Dan Kennedy world for a while, you've probably heard the term swipe file or swipe and deploy. We want to take things that are proven rather than reinventing the wheel, and you have to know where to find those things. So 2 types of materials that we need shortcuts on. Number 1 is strategies. So you all came through boot camp, you've gotten a ton of the magnetic marketing strategies, and that will save you so much time in reinventing the wheel. Second step beyond that is swipe files and templates, which if you own the magnetic marketing product, you would have some of those as well. But you should really begin developing your own file of things that you keep and save. I have them in physical format in my folders. I have them in digital on my computer. I have them as saved for later lists on Facebook when I see things there that might be useful. But swipe files everywhere. You have to understand the why of the strategy. So this one is really interesting because as people get exposed to marketing strategy, they want to duplicate what they see. They want to implement, they want to listen to what people are telling them. But oftentimes they miss the intricacies of why something's important or why it works. And without the intricacies, the whole marketing system could be shot. It's also important to understand the why and the strategies because they stand the test of time. The strategies don't change much. The tactics do, which is the next thing we'll cover. But strategy tends to be very similar. So magnetic marketing itself is built on a very solid foundation of strategy that won't change. How things look, feel, what technology platforms are used, everything like that's subject to change, and it's going to. But the core concepts are always going to be valid because they're based in human psychology, really. Proven shortcuts for tactics. So again, no tactics before strategies. So you're plugged into the marketing world now, and you're going to get exposed to all kinds of marketing messages. You're going to see people using different tactics on you. You're likely getting hammered with, Facebook ads if you're a Facebook person. And a lot of people will fall in love with an actual tactic. So, an example of a tactic is maybe a personalized video sent to someone as part of a sales process. And so we'll have someone that gets one of those that's a client of ours and says, we need to be using those. But they don't understand why that was used or where it quite fits in. They just know they liked it and thought it was cool. And that is deadly. So we want to make sure that strategy dictates the tactic, not vice versa. There are a million marketing tactics. There's a handful of strategies. Also, there's shiny objects everywhere. There's things coming at you from every direction trying to get your money. There's my industry is fraught with fraudsters. We find more by the day, but everyone's been burned by someone in the marketing or advertising space, it seems. Our microwave just blew up here. um, Tactics are interchangeable. People will come to me and say, hey, what's the best software for X? And, there's probably 10 different pieces of software that can do it. So it doesn't matter. But oftentimes they're sold as being the end all be all solution, and there's nothing too special about it. So be careful, look out for that when someone's selling you, this is the solution, this is the way to do it. Dan and Darcy and Darren and everyone at Magnetic Marketing is very good with not telling you the way. They're giving you a proven framework, and that's good. Tactics are always changing too. So this is the area I live in, is where the rubber meets the road on actually implementing. And we are always learning, always having to change, tweak the way we deliver. We can do it because it's our full-time career, and there's several of us. I would find it very hard to believe that one employee that's kind of dedicated to this, or the owner that has to actually operate the business as well, could keep up as well. So just keep in mind, tactics are always changing. You should swipe and copy things that look good, but make sure you understand what's going on behind the scenes as well. All right, so I told you 7. We got plenty of time. I'm going to give you number 8, which is to use a one-stop shop for all this. So what I've given you in number 1 through 7 is literally how we've implemented marketing for, well, darn near 2 decades now. It's the sources we've used. It's how we deal with them. It's where we use them. So you should be able to start implementing some of that if you want. Now, this is one of my favorite graphics, by the way. So this is what we call the GSD chasm. So if we have the people sitting, come over here, that's us, by the way. That's Profit 911 over there. And if you're still sitting over on the how do we get there side, we've kind of given you the ladders, the ropes, some people to tell you what to do, and you can't figure out how to do it. You probably need a little more help. GSD, by the way, is the PG version is get stuff done. So the difference between success and failure here. So if you decide to use a marketing agency or someone that puts themselves out there as a marketing agency, they need to understand magnetic marketing direct response style. So you have kind of a proven framework you've been exposed to now. You probably were already using bits and pieces of it. Now you know a little more of it. It's not overly common though. So you need to make sure you find someone that speaks the language that you do. They need to have the very skill sets we discussed. There's no one-man show that can do what you're being asked to do, to implement what Darcy shared with you throughout the day and a half. Just not going to happen. Someone might be able to pull it off, but they're not going to be good in all the areas, and ultimately you're going to suffer. They need to understand marketing automation and multi-step. So there's always follow-up, and we want to use systems because human beings are expensive. So make sure that that's built in there as well. They need to be accountable. Again, weekly meetings is my preference. If you hire an agency that's going to meet with you monthly and they're going to tweak what they're doing monthly, you're going to be bankrupt before you get results. And we've seen this with our own clients. So one of the things we don't do is manage paid ads, like actually place the Facebook ad or the Google ad. Now we know what makes a good ad. We know what we expect out of a contractor doing that and how to manage them. But we had one client that has one that uh, apparently thought it was good enough to put an ad or a set of ads, not just one ad on Google. And then each month, right before the renewal of their contract, they would come in there and tweak the ad. So like every 4 weeks, that's a no-go. You need weekly, if not daily changes. So weekly meetings. You need proven strategies and tactics. They can't be just reinventing the wheel from scratch. And you need to have some sense of comfort that they know what they're talking about. I've done this before. They need to do more than just take directions. So if you're telling a marketing agency what to do, this is not good. You should be running. They should be providing you unique ideas. Now, ultimately, you're going to be the shot caller, but they should provide the ideas and the justification for them. Also, I'm not a huge fan of long-term commitments or contracts with marketing agencies because the bottom line is they either are getting results or they are not. Um, Oftentimes, a large amount of time frame of working with them is not going to change the level of success. You can kind of see early on their work style. So don't sign like a 6 or 12-month agreement for a marketing type agency. And remember, money loves speed. That's what this is all about. So find someone that has some of that entrepreneurial fire, likes to get stuff done, likes to get it moving, but fits the above criteria as well. Now, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't say I had a favorite agency, which is my own. And we, fit those bills. But let me tell you a little bit about who we work with and how we work. So we work with established businesses. So if you are sitting there right now, you just started your first ever business, I'm happy to have a consultation with you and point you in the right direction. We're probably not going to work together at this point in time, though. The only exception is if you have a track record of running other businesses. So we're not really starting at ground zero. It just happens to be a new venture for you. We primarily work with service businesses, not product businesses. Again, like I said, we have attorneys, doctors of all sorts, some info marketers, and a handful of local service providers. So those would be kind of the key categories we work in. But pretty much without exception, they're service-based. Every once in a while, we have a product side to the business, but it's not necessarily the entire business. We work with business entrepreneurs and owners who need things done for them. They don't have the time or desire to do it themselves, and they have the resources to get that done for them. So everyone we work with is busy. So when I say weekly meetings, if you're shuttering because you know you're already busy, you're probably the type of person we work with, and we understand and respect that time and make the most of it. Also, we only work with people that are looking for long-term solutions. So there is no silver bullet with marketing. It's iteration, and we've designed our current offerings such that we basically become an outsourced branch of your own company. So we don't come in for like 2 months, mess everything up, take our money and disappear. I think that's setting you up for failure. We do have an offer called your virtual marketing department. It's custom work based, but essentially you meet with the project manager every week, and the project manager discusses strategy with you, creates the to-do list for the week, and then uses our people to get it done for you. So this is a flat rate type offer. That's good for some businesses, not for others. If the business is of sufficient size, it makes perfect sense because it tends to be less than the cost of even hiring an intern. But that's one way we work. We work project or flat fee based. It depends what you're looking for. So like to give you, so you're not completely in the dark. So virtual marketing department right now tends to be around $2,000 a month. Projects we work vary anywhere from $15,000 to $40,000. Projects are tough right now because typically there is an in-person component to those. But we don't do any like, I need you for 2 hours type work. That's not in our best interest or your best interest. I gave you a lot of resources in this presentation to get that type of work done already. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you have a choice to make. Go it alone or hire some help. What I mean by go it alone is kind of important. So go it alone means you have people telling you what to do, maybe coaching and guiding you, but ultimately you have to do it. Hiring help, I mean people actually doing it for you. Not only are they telling you what to do, coaching, guiding you, but they actually implement on your behalf. Completely different relationships. Difference between coaching and working for you. If anyone wants to talk more about what my company can do for you, I'm happy to. No pressure. You hear how laid back I am on this presentation. Same on a one-on-one call. Just I'll see where you're at. I'll kind of guide you next steps. Maybe one of our offerings is right. Maybe it's not. We do a few different things around here. So we do web development. We do automated follow-up build out, and we do direct mail projects. And that's why best thing to do is to just schedule some time with me. We'll talk through your questions and see if there's some way I can help you or give you a resource that can. And the way to schedule that is to go to profit911.biz/consult. Let me see if I can type that in the chat for you. I don't know if Zoom allows links now or not. It didn't for a while. Nope. Thank you, Zoom. It does not. But profit911.biz is our website, and /consult will get you. There's also a button on the homepage. So if you just go to the homepage, I have that one linked. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to hang out. I have another 10 minutes. I will switch the camera back on. Happy to answer anything you have. At this point, I'm also going to stop out the recording.